Right now at Sprint, you can lease the Samsung Galaxy S9 for just $5 a month with a Sprint Flex lease. Galaxy S9 is an incredible phone. It takes super slow-mo video and instantly translates foreign language signs, menus, maps, and more. Lease your Galaxy S9 for just $5 a month today. Visit a Sprint store, sprint.com, or call 800-SPRINT-1. Phone $5 per month after $28 per month credit. Apply within 2 bills. If you cancel early, remaining balance due. Requires new line and 18-month lease. Excludes tax, subject to credit, $30 activation fee, and restrictions apply.
Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Voices for Change 2.0, the only podcast that focuses on mental health while mixing in movies, music, books, sports, and pop culture. Here are your hosts, Rebecca and Joe Lombardo.
Good morning and welcome to Voices for Change 2.0.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks for tuning in on this Super Bowl Sunday weekend. Woohoo! Go
I keep
sports!
forgetting about that.
Go sports! Woo!
Because we don't really have a team.
We really don't have a team this year. I'm sorry to our fans that are in LA and Boston.
We're definitely not Patriots fans.
We're not Patriots fans, so I guess go Rams. Yeah, that's kind of the way we're leaning. But anyway, hope you all survived the polar Arctic blast again that we had this week.
The polar vortex.
The polar vortex that every time I see a graphic of it, it looks like boobs. I don't understand that.
It did look like boobs.
It looked like boobs.
Somebody posted something about telling it to put a bra on.
Yeah, really. Thanks for that. So, anyway, thanks for joining us. Thanks for being with us today.
Absolutely.
We're trying to thaw out ourselves. It's been a rough week, but we survived it. We made it to Saturday. Woohoo!
All right, you have to stop doing that.
I'm trying to shock us both into,
All right,
so,
well, that's enough woo-hoos.
Okay, so we got a couple of things we're going to talk about before we bring our guest on, because, we thought that these topics were both really important. First one.
So I'll start.
Okay, you start.
So about a month ago, my psychiatrist put me on a medication called Trintellix. You might have seen the ads on TV. It's kind of a new one.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't really doing too much at the beginning at 10 milligrams. So she bumped it up to 20. And we went to get it filled, and they said the insurance company had kicked it back, and they weren't gonna cover it. And we were kind of confused and not really sure what to do about it. And we get this letter in the mail that says the insurance company doesn't want to pay for it, that it's too expensive of a medication, and I should go to my doctor and have her put me on something different.
Which I find both ridiculous and unconscionable. This is insurance that we pay for. This is money going out of our pocket to pay them to do their job, negotiate prices and cover this stuff, which brings up another thought of mine, something I saw this morning too, but I'll cover that in a second. In fact, I might bring this up with our guest when we talk to him too. But, I find it ridiculous that a doctor can prescribe a medication for you, and we've ran into this in the past with a different medication as well, where the insurance company feels the need to chime in and say, well, no, because that costs too much, we're not going to pay for it, find something else. Never mind the fact that this could be a medication that is beneficial to your health and well-being, but also in some cases could be life-saving. Yeah,
it was. I was taking the 10 milligram. I was taking 2 of them from my bottle that I had, and while I can't say that there's this huge difference that I'm noticing.
Mm-hmm.
There are subtle differences in what I'm dealing with. You know, the issues that I've got going on now, and I can say that medication could be, because that's the new factor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that could be actually helping, and now they're not going to cover it.
Yeah. And there's, if you're on the Twitterverse, there is a fascinating video out there that I saw this morning that was posted by our new Congresswoman, the popular new hotness out of the House of Representatives, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, where she's talking, she and this oversight committee are talking to these doctors about pharmaceuticals. And the thing that you take away is all the research is being publicly funded through the NIH, the National Institute of Health. And when these medications are getting approved, they're suddenly a for-profit private thing. The public is not seeing any type of financial benefit coming back from the research being done. And, you know, most of the pharmaceutical companies have gotten away from having their own research arms, and they're relying on the academics to do the research, you know, universities, colleges, and whatnot to do this. And the people working at the universities, they're doing this research to help people, to better man. They're not doing it to become billionaires, you know. And the pharmaceutical companies are taking this and running with it, which, again, I find that concept completely ridiculous. All right, I'm getting off my soapbox because we have a guest that we have to talk to. So, our guest today, he's been on the show before, and we are ecstatic to have him back today. He is a rock star in the mental health community, and just an all-around pretty decent dude. So
he's in a really good mood today,
and he's very up. So we're going to take advantage of that for all we can. And please welcome to the show the wonderful, the lovely and talented, as my wife hates me saying, the lovely and talented Gabe Howard. Welcome, sir.
Hello. I love being called lovely. That might be my new favorite thing. I might add that to my bio.
See? And you decried me calling people lovely and talented, dear.
Yeah, I'm not a fan, but you know, hey, if our guests like it, that's what matters.
I mean, it would be different if I wasn't lovely.
Oh yeah,
exactly.
You
that would
sure are lovely.
You're a lovely man. So, how you doing this?
Well, thank you for having me.
How you doing this morning? Absolutely.
I'm great. You know, I think I thought it was funny you said, you know, he's up, and that, you know, it's fantastic. It's so cold in Ohio that I don't think it's up as much as it is stir crazy. You know, there's not really a lot of going outside right now for fear of, you know, instant freezing to death. So I'm just ecstatic for human contact. So thank you. Thank you for talking to me. It's so needed right now.
Oh, it's our pleasure.
It went from -3 here up to 16, so it was downright balmy.
Yeah, it was a heat wave. So yeah, it's
a heat wave.
I don't know about you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been a rough week for us. Our car, one of our cars actually broke down. I gotta think it's at least partly due to the cold.
Yeah.
So I gotta figure out getting that fixed. But you know, that's a little peek into
that, we survived.
Window of my life. But anyway, so yeah, I don't know. Have you seen that video, Gabe, that I was talking about with Alexandria?
I have not. No.
You should check it out. It's fascinating. It's her and another representative, and they're talking to these doctors and professors from a couple of different universities, and it was really eye-opening. I hadn't realized. And you know, if this doesn't spark a little more outrage for people with the whole pharmaceutical thing, I don't know what will. You know.
I completely agree with you. Just, I have not seen the video. I want to say that just for the sake of clarity. But yeah, this idea that insurance companies or pharmaceutical companies or anybody who is not your doctor weighing in on the treatment that you need, it's a slippery slope. It's terrifyingly scary. And I know that we're trained to look at all sides and be fair, et cetera, but I want the best care available. I don't want the best care that I can afford. And it's a frightening concept to people. This idea that some people might not be living as well or even die simply because of a decision made in a boardroom rather than a decision made by sound medical advice. And this is where we are as a country, and that kind of thing.
You know, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Healthcare should not be a for-profit business. It shouldn't. I'm sorry. I realize capitalism is a big deal in this country. We were founded on it, but no. There are some things that need a more socialistic view. Healthcare is one of them. I'm firmly behind Medicare for all. I feel like, the big rallying cry is, there's going to be death councils and this type of thing and blah, 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 when they were first talking about introducing the Affordable Care Act. But it's like, to me, when you've got, what's it called? For an insurance company, wow, my brain does not work today. When you've got an insurance company dictating policy, that's just as bad as a so-called death council. I'm sorry, you're talking about people's lives and life and death situations.
I just want to know, when I can go to the boardroom and advocate for myself.
Exactly.
Listen, I love capitalism. I'll be the first one to admit it. And people are always shocked to hear that. They're like, but Gabe, you're so liberal. Well, yeah, but I also like money and things and stuff. I don't think
right.
that, but I agree with you. It doesn't belong everywhere. And we understand this in other things. We love certain vices. I love R-rated movies. I mean, I adore R-rated movies. Deadpool, the R-rated superhero movie, is like one of my favorite movies of all time. But, I'm not taking my niece to see it. She's 4. Right. It's not for her. Yeah. So there's a time and a place for everything. And I think that, in competition and capitalism absolutely, unequivocally has its place. And I would, I feel pretty comfortable saying that it has its place in most things. But it's not a one-size-fits-all. And, right back to Deadpool. I can't wait until my niece is old enough to see Deadpool. Of course, it'll be old and she won't get any of the references, but that's not the point. Yeah. She's not going now. And my sister appreciates that. Even though I teach all of my nieces and nephews how to swear at a very young age. That's what Uncle Gabe brings to the occasion. But, that's I think people can kind of understand that. It's definitely a very deep topic for a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
I like it. But, whenever you have a lot of money and a lot of people, you're probably not going to get a lot of change. So we might want to hunker down and just accept that this is the way of the world for a while, which is unfortunate. I really wish that we were a society that espoused more Christian values in this way. The idea that we're literally arguing over whether or not we should take care of the sick, while at the same time arguing that we need to be a more Christian nation do you not see those two things at odds? I really don't recall the part in the Bible where Jesus said, let's care for the sick as long as they can afford it. I seem to recall it being the opposite, but listen, I was not around back then. I did not know the man personally. So maybe he was exploded.
I've read the Gospels and I don't remember reading anything where Jesus asked for a copay. That's just my 2 cents on the thing. But
there is a lot about tithing to churches. I mean, so let's be a little bit fair.
well,
money is definitely mentioned.
Yeah, it's true. Well, we've got a bunch of questions for you, sir. I know we went off on a tangent, but we actually need to get to our questions because we took the time to write them.
Yeah. Tangents are my specialty, so I'm really glad we could get it out of the way at the beginning.
Yeah. So, all right. So for those who aren't already familiar with you, because believe it or not, there are people that may not be, where does your mental health journey begin?
It begins all the way back in 2003 when I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder after being tricked into going to the emergency room because I had a suicide plan and I was feeling very, very suicidal. Without falling into a 45-minute speech, the moment right before I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, I believed every I believed every stigmatizing and discriminating thing about mental illness that is out there. Every single thing. I believe that people with mental illness, were rocking back and forth and drooling in the corner. I believed that they were stupid. I believed that they couldn't work. I believed culture reference about mental illness because that's all that I was ever taught. So even though I was literally a moment away from being diagnosed with bipolar disorder and, all that entailed from, severe mania, suicidal thoughts, psychosis, delusions, and just everything that I had been experiencing for years, I believed just all of the wrong information. And my family believed the wrong information, and our friends believed the wrong information. And this allowed me to be 25 years old without ever being diagnosed, even though that the symptoms of bipolar disorder were just plain as day. I mean, it was just plain as day. Mm-hmm. The only way it could be more plain is if, it were tattooed on my forehead, "This dude is mentally ill." And then everybody would be like, well, I mean, it's kind of a fashion statement. Plus he had bangs. I didn't see it. So that's really where it began. It began with me knowing absolutely nothing about bipolar disorder, mental illness, and mental health. And then this instant, while I was in a psychiatric ward, I suddenly needed to know everything. And that's just a terrible way to learn. It really is a terrible way to learn.
Yeah. I can agree with you on that. The word needs to be gotten out there, I think, at elementary school level at this point. They really want to do anti-bullying campaigns. It needs to start with teaching children about mental illness and mental health and having compassion and all that fun stuff. We have to actually digress from our questions because we have a caller on the line for you, sir.
Callers? This is a call-in show? I was not prepared for this.
Honestly, we were kind of taken aback ourselves, but there is a person of the female persuasion named Lou on the phone for you.
All right.
Hi, Lou. Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah,
we can hear you now.
We can.
Okay, yeah, I can hear you now. I just wanted to call in because I've been a long-time follower of Gabe. I love the podcasts that you do, both of them, actually, with Vince and Michelle. And I just, listening to this last bit of conversation, it really hit home. I personally do not suffer from mental illness, but I, too, thought the same thing that you thought until someone very near and dear to me was diagnosed. And I just want to say thank you for what you do. You really opened my eyes, and I hope you continue to do what you do to open everybody else's eyes on what's out there, the stigma, how we fight it.
Well, first, thank you so much for calling. I really appreciate it, and thank you for the kind words. It's really, really cool. But, I agree with you. When I got well, I thought, man, I always say this, and I feel bad for saying it because, sometimes it feels like if you protest too much, but I didn't come from a bad family. My family is fantastic. I have supportive parents. I have engaged parents. I have, siblings and grandparents and cousins, and I had a good childhood. My parents weren't alcoholics that beat me. We had our problems. I don't want you to get Leave It to Beaver in your head or anything weird like that, but no, there was, people always ask, they're like, well, there was alcoholism, right? Or your mom was bad. No, I cannot be more clear. And I just really feel very strongly that if my family and my circle of friends and my engaged people, and there was lots of engaged people when I was growing up, did not understand that I was sick, it wasn't because they were malicious. It wasn't because they were bad. It's because they were just ignorant, straight up. And when I got well, I thought, man, if my family can miss this, any family can miss this, literally any family. And the only thing that I had going for me is that I was loud, and I felt that I had information that the world needed. And I just started yelling that information as loudly as I could, and I hope that it picked up as many people as I can. And it's cool
people are
that you
hearing
listen
you.
to. I hope so. I think that it's really cool that you listen to a podcast designed, for those who don't know, one of the shows that I host is a bipolar, a schizophrenic, and a podcast. I host it with the great Michelle Hammer, who lives with schizophrenia. I live with bipolar. And we designed the show sort of, for mentally ill people by mentally ill people. That's really that's the design of the show. And more we get calls from folks like Lou who say, hey, look, I don't have mental illness, but I know somebody who does. And that's why I listen to the show. And that's kind of a happy accident. We didn't think people who didn't experience mental illness themselves would find much need for a show like ours. And we have found out that that's really very much the opposite. And that's fantastic because, it shows that we're reaching people. And I'm glad that you get something out of it.
Exactly.
So awesome.
Did you have any other questions for us, Lou?
Nope. Just wanted to call in for an actual chance to say to the man himself that I really enjoyed listening to his podcast and following. I even bought his book.
Aww. I like it when people buy my book. That's great. So I have a question for you since you're on the phone, and you have to answer honestly. This might come up at some future bipolar, schizophrenic, in a podcast episode, but who do you like more, Gabe or Michelle?
Well, since I am the female persuasion, I tend to stick with the females. No, I'm just kidding. No, I love you both.
Man, that was you should run for political office. I love you both. But it sounds like you said Michelle. I think there's she's going to pick up on that quickly, so I hope she's not listening. So thank you so much. It's very cool that you called, and I appreciate you too.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thanks for calling in, Lou. Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye.
And bye. And if anybody else wants to call in, the number is 347-989-0126. We welcome, and this is a weekly thing. We welcome your phone call for sure. So
we don't often bring it up, as much as we should.
Yeah.
But yes, we do take calls, and I'm losing my voice.
You are losing your voice. I got
that is bad for a podcaster. That's death right there.
It happens. It happens every weekend. I haven't yet to conquer whatever it is that causes me to lose my voice.
It's just motivation for me to talk more.
Oh, I wish Michelle would lose her voice.
Well, being that she brought up the podcast, I'm going to skip the next question that we were going to ask and go right to it. You mentioned your podcast, a bipolar, schizophrenic, and a podcast. We know now that you co-host it with Michelle Hammer. And what kind of topics do you guys talk about on the show? And do you have guests, stuff like that?
We don't really have so lots of questions there. The first one is guests. We don't have guests very often. We have had a couple, and as far as planning goes, we kind of want to have more. We just we wanted, there's lots of shows that have guests, and I don't know, I just kind of felt like I was stealing their their thunder, like, oh, I'm going to create a show where we have guests and talk about mental illness. I mean, you all have been around doing that long before I came around. So we kind of wanted a show where we just sort of discussed topics and bantered among ourselves and disagreed and fought it out and just did whatever. I don't know what goes on during a show, to be honest. But we pick a topic, we pick stories or things that have happened to us, and we just discuss it. And the nice thing about it is that while Michelle and I are on the same page, we're both people living with mental illness. That's where our similarities end. I am older than Michelle. She says much older. I say just a little bit older, but let it be known that Michelle is younger than I am. I'm from Ohio and she's from New York, and that's a world of difference. She's Jewish and I was raised Catholic. That's a world of difference. She's a woman. I'm a man. Once again, world of difference. And on and on and on. And there's like 9 or 10 more points that I could make where we are just different people entirely with different outlooks. And then of course the final one is, bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. While they're both mental illnesses, they are very different. And so we get on with this subject and I'm like, well, I don't like blue. And she's like, I really like blue. And I'm like, wait, what? Blue is stupid. And then we never have made a podcast about blue. I just want everybody to know. And this is how it goes. And we share the parts that we like. We share what we have in common. We share personal experience. We share stories. And then we just end the show with, look, I guess we resolved nothing, but at least we discussed it. Sometimes we have practical hints and tips that we've learned along the way. We obviously share what worked for us. We invite people to write in and tell us what worked for them, and, sometimes we'll share those on the show. And the whole thing just comes together with really this idea in mind. 2 people with mental illness discussed a topic in a way that only people with mental illness can discuss it. And voyeuristically, you can listen into that, and you can take what you want and leave the rest. And that's it. Yeah. It's I would like to say that it's like a really high-end concept, but it's not. We just want there to be more conversation about mental illness in the world, and there's not a lot. And while more and more is coming, I always, people tell me, they're like, well, it's getting better. Look at how many podcasts. And I'm like, I agree. There are a lot of podcasts and there's a lot of blogs about mental illness. How many mainstream shows are there? None. Right. Yeah. How many sports shows are there? Oh, a ton. How many political shows are there? A ton. How many pop culture shows are there? A ton. How many tabloid shows are there? A ton. How many shows are there discussing mental health and mental illness? None. None. This exists all through the world. There's not enough women's only entertainment. There's not enough minority only entertainment. There's not enough LGBTQ entertainment. But there is more of all of those things than there is topics just about living with, a brain disease or mental health issues or mental illness. And I understand that that's where capitalism comes in. Obviously, if a network talking only mental illness could make money, cable would put it on the air. We're not quite there yet, but I'm hoping that we can, reach a point where one of these podcasts hits the mainstream, because right now we're very niche, and that's why we're staying as podcasts and blogs and YouTube channels. And I want to make the next step. Yeah. Me personally, I want to make it, but I'll accept anybody making it, because if anybody makes it, we're all going to do better, and. Mm-hmm. I hope it's one of us. I do. Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, that would be.
Speaking again of said podcast, where can people find you and tune in?
So our podcast is available on every single podcast player imaginable. Obviously iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify. It's everywhere. But our official website, if you want to start there, which I certainly don't blame anybody, is psychcentral.com/BSP. No, it doesn't stand for bullshit podcast, like one astute listener pointed out. It stands for Bipolar Schizophrenic Podcast, but it's psychcentral.com/BSP, or, of course, your favorite podcast player.
Nice.
Okay.
Very good.
Well, we've got to take a quick break. So we'll catch you on the other side of this. It is James Cobb with If I Could.
If I could, I'd make every day a beauty, every day a wonderful hello for you. If I could, I would give you everything, anything to make you whole. If I could, I would wash away the tears of all your sorrows and make them disappear. If you would just allow me in your heart, and you'll know what love can be. Now the world can make you feel happy, or the world can make you feel alone. It's difficult to understand that when we're here, we're often on our own. If I could, I would find a way to tell you how important that you really are. You see, you'll always be that breath of spring. That's why people love you so. I can't believe it's true that I'm talking to you. You're making me feel this alive. Wish everyone could know you, no doubt in my mind. They'd be better if they do. If I could, I'd make every day a happy day, every day so beautiful, you know, that if you would let me kindle in your heart, let me stoke the fire that feeds your soul. I can't believe it's true that as I'm talking to you, you're making me feel this alive. Wish everyone could know you, no doubt in my mind. They'd be better if they do. If I could, I'd make every day a beauty, every day a wonderful hello for you. If I could, I would give you everything, anything to make you whole. If I could, you know I would. If I could.
Hey, welcome back to Voices for Change 2.0. We are so glad that you are sticking around with us today.
Yeah, thanks for being back with us. Beck stole my thunder. I like to do the I'm Joe, she's Rebecca spiel, but
Oh boy,
but
I'm sorry.
she took away my
we're
fun.
changing it up today.
She took away my smile.
All right, Shawn Michaels.
I kid, I tease. So, hey, if you're just tuning in, we're talking to somebody he's amazing. He's a good guy. He's a rock star. He's an all-star. He's going to get paid.
All your young audience members are like, what is this person saying? Like, all the 40-year-olds
exactly.
are like, that was awesome!
And that's exactly it. I find myself, we're talking to Gabe Howard, by the way. I find myself more and more bringing up all these references to older stuff, and I get looked at by, like, the young kids that I work with at the shop. They're like, what? You know, and then I got to find something on YouTube to show them. I was talking, here's a stupid little story. I was talking to a buddy of mine a couple weeks back, and he said something, and I said something. He says, well, that was unexpected. And I said, nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. And he looked at me like I was an alien. And so then I had to find the clip on YouTube from Monty Python showing him the whole Spanish Inquisition thing. And then he laughed his head off, which was awesome. So people...
Which is what guys do with Monty Python.
Yeah.
It's kind of a
Thankfully,
guy
there's
thing.
YouTube.
Yeah, thank God.
I mean, could you imagine, like, in the 1980s, when a 40-year-old did that and the 20-year-olds looked at him like he was nuts? They were just like, I got nothing. Like, there was nothing they could do. They're just like, crazy old man. Exactly. At least you can, like, pull out your phone and, like, prove that you're not nuts.
Yeah, back then it's like who's Jack Benny? You know, or George Burns who? You know. Yeah.
I remember
exactly
every time my
and,
grandmother said Lawrence Welk, I was just like, all right, old lady, go stand over there. She would have had YouTube. She could have showed me. I would have still said, all right, old lady, go stand over there, but at least I would have known.
Yeah, you know, and for me, because my dad was much older, we actually had Lawrence Welk on the TV. Meanwhile, the kids listening to this podcast are going, who's Lawrence Welk? So, yeah, so that's what we're dealing with.
That's awesome.
That's a generational thing.
Yeah.
So,
well, hey, let's get back to our list of questions here. Yes. I leaned back and not sure if the microphone picked that up. But
this microphone picks up everything.
Yeah, it's a good one. Thank you to Blue for their Yeti.
Yes. Thank you, Blue.
So let's talk a little bit more about Gabe here. How about you talk about your recent release of your book?
Oh, well, thank you so much. So I collected a whole... So, man, you think I'd be better at this being a professional and all. So I wrote a book called Mental Illness is an Asshole and Other Observations. And to give a little background of the book... Well, thank you. Many, many years ago, 5 or 6 at this point, I started writing articles, blogging and, just getting the word out there via written word professionally. So this is really where I start, like, my professional career. Obviously I'd written articles and blogs, like, on my personal website, et cetera, before, but about 5 years ago in 2014ish. That's really when I made the leap from, guy who writes stuff on the internet to guy who gets paid to write stuff on the internet. And, I started publishing them on, websites like, WebMD, PsychCentral.com, Bipolar Magazine, just Health Central, just places like that, places where you would really find, your good mental health content. And I started writing about all sorts of subjects, lived experience, my personal experience, using analogies to explain, higher end concepts. There's lots of information written about mental illness and bipolar disorder out there, but, sometimes it's written on a very technical level. And while we need that information, I mean, we need research, we need researchers, we need doctors and MDs and psychiatrists and therapists to write about this from a very, very technical standpoint. If you've been recently diagnosed with bipolar disorder and you're reading like this, 150-page white paper about, the diagnostic criteria for an illness, that's just frightening, assuming that you have time to get through 150 pages at all. So that was sort of my niche. I really just wanted to explain mental illness, bipolar disorder, and all of the things that happened to me and happened to people like me in 300 to 600 words or less. So fast forward, a few years, and everybody's like, "Where's your book? Where's your book? Where's your book?" And I'm like, I don't write a book. I write, shortness is what I'm known for. When I talk long. When I write short. I don't know why it's that way, but that is just the way that it is. And a few
I'm
people
known
were
for
like,
shortness too.
Yeah, I love it. But several people suggested, why don't you grab some of your blogs and put it into a book? And I was really resistant to this idea for a while, but eventually, I found a publisher, I found editors, I found support and things like that, and I thought, okay, I'll do it. And I went through and I found every single article that I had the rights to. Some folks wouldn't let me have the rights to them, for good reason. I don't mean that. That's not a negative or a disrespectful comment at all. They paid for it. It's theirs. But a lot of places were like, sure, yeah, we're fine. Just attribute to us in the book. And then I had to read everything that I'd ever written. And, there was a lot of contradictions. There was a lot of updated opinions. There was a lot of, oh, my God, I don't know what I was thinking when I wrote that, and on and on and on. And then I put them in order in a book that's 380 pages long that just has all kinds of information. It really is just a hodgepodge. I talk about, how I feel about my family. I talk about how my family feels about me. I give, descriptions about it. I talk about peer support. I talk about the definition of bipolar. I give people advice. I tell people I was wrong. I contradict myself. I don't contradict myself. And it all fit together in this book that, when you read it cover to cover, I really feel like you leave with a lot more information than you started. Including information that you might not agree with. And I encourage that. I really want people to have critical thinking skills about this. I love it when people read an article and they're like, man, this does not apply to me at all. He has got this dead wrong. And that is fantastic because not only does it show me that you thought about the article that I wrote, but that you applied critical thinking skills and you applied it to your life and you decided that, no, this does not work for you. And that's wonderful because it really shows that you are really thinking about the subject and the subject matter. And that's it. And it got its name. I know you didn't ask, but we'll pretend that you did.
Where did the name come from?
Yes. Well, thank you. I'm glad you asked. So I get these. So now I need to name this darn thing. It's already like, what do you name it? And it was always going to be, something in other observations or something in other essays or something in other articles. But I needed something that encompassed everything. A lot of my articles are just about peer support or just about bipolar disorder. When they're 300 to 600 pages or 300 to 600 words, they tend to be about single topics. And I was afraid that somebody would see it if I said, the 3 things I hate about bipolar. They'd think, oh, this is a book about bipolar disorder. Or if it was, peer support and mental illness or peer support and mental health, they'd think, oh, this is a book about peer support. So I needed something that encompassed everything. And I wrote an article, one of my first articles to go, I'm saying viral, but it's not viral. It was just a really popular article on the site. And it was called, you guessed it, Mental Illness is an Asshole. And I've just always really liked that one because it was the first one that really got a lot of, praise. It got a lot of support. It got a lot of love. And it's kind of like your first standing ovation or your first kiss. You're just, it doesn't matter anything about it. You're just always going to remember it because it was first. And I remember Mental Illness is an Asshole being one of the first articles if not the first article that I ever wrote that really resonated with people. And I got a lot of, emails and Facebook and comments that people were like, yeah, mental illness is. You called it. And that felt really, really good, especially at the beginning of my career. And now here we are. I'm the author of a book that has asshole in the title. And Facebook and Amazon just, they won't put it in their trending lists or anything because of their community standards. I often joke that Facebook can mess with America's election, but Facebook will not tolerate the word asshole. So, it's good that they have boundaries. Boundaries are important.
Boundaries are important.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you if you've gotten any, pushback for using a swear.
For using a curse word.
Yeah, for using foul language. I only got pushback from one person. There was one person who told me that because of her religious beliefs that she couldn't buy the book because it has asshole in it. And I said, I certainly understood. And she asked me if I was going to make another version of the book where I just said, like, mental illness is an a-hole on the cover. And I said that I would certainly, make the publisher aware of that. But, I have to say that the article would still be on the inside. And there are a couple of articles on the inside where I do swear. So the subject matter is not going to change. It's not like it would change. But I also offered to put one of my bipolar stickers over it, just like so it would just say mental illness is a bipolar sticker. Or she could duct tape it. I would not be offended. I don't know if she ever ordered a book, but the place where I got the most pushback was literally, social media, and not by people on social media, but by the social media sites themselves. Twitter and Facebook have their algorithm just hates apparently foul language and asshole to boot. I mean, just what. You can say that during primetime television. I didn't really think that it was that. I didn't name it the F word for Pete's sake. But it really has been a problem. And several people have tried to review it, which makes me laugh. And Amazon has rejected the review. Somebody wrote, I highly recommend Mental Illness is an Asshole. And the minute they hit save, it came back and said that you can't swear in a review. They were just like, it's title of the book. So in that way, it has been kind of a problem, I guess. But it is what it is. It is an asshole. I don't know what else to say.
Some guy can post a picture of his Johnson on Twitter, but
but God forbid.
I have seen way worse, and I'm not judging people's speech or the way that they talk, but. Listen, I know people that post social media updates where every other word is the F word. And God bless them. I'm not against it. I don't personally swear on social media, but I swear in my podcast, A Bipolar, a Schizophrenic, and a Podcast. Michelle and I, we talk very frankly. And just spoiler alert, we say the F word. It's not every other word, but it's happened. It's not even every episode, but it's in there. And it hasn't hurt the popularity of the show one iota, as far as I can tell. But, this is, hey, somebody's got to be the word police, I guess.
Yeah. Well, God forbid that there's cursing in the world when you've got people starving and people living on the street and people that can't afford their medication or they have to decide between medication and food, But by all means, don't curse.
Yeah,
it's soapbox out again. Did you?
I did. I keep it handy. It's attached at my hip, and it's on one of those little, like the keychain thing with the little string, so it zips right back to your hip when you're done.
Yeah, like a dog leash.
Nice, a fanny pack.
Like a custodian. It's I'm a janitor for a soapbox.
Nice.
So,
nice.
Yeah.
But you're not wrong. And I think this way about some of the things in I don't want to get a bunch of tomatoes thrown at me, but people ask me about like person first language. It's like, well, a bipolar, a schizophrenic, and a podcast, isn't that offensive? I personally don't think so. But I'm not really going to give it much brain power until every person with mental illness can get the care that they need and that they're not dying of exposure in the winter and there's beds available and people can get jobs, afford medication, get access to care without waiting 6 months. I mean, I think these are much bigger topics in my mind than things like person first language or if haunted asylums at Halloween are offensive or is crazy low prices something that we should try to get rid of. I'm not saying that there's no point there or it's not worthy of discussion. It certainly is. Of course, everything is worthy of discussion, but it's risen to the top of the pile. we get more email on the name of our show than every other thing combined. And I'm just like, wow, this is just not that big of a deal. But, people feel strongly about it. So, and they have a computer. So here we are.
And they're easily offended for ridiculous reasons.
Sadly.
There's that.
Yeah, there's that. Yeah. What are we going to do? I mean, we could try to fix it, but, that would take time, and I'm busy.
Yeah, that would involve effort. And, I got stuff I got to do,
right.
So.
Got a lot going on here.
Got a lot going on over here. Yeah.
I mean, all joking aside, I just wish folks would think about it. And that's all I'm really asking them to do. And I would certainly never call somebody, if you live with bipolar disorder and you say, please don't say this is, when you introduce me, don't say Jim, he's bipolar. Please say this is Jim, he lives with bipolar. Absolutely, I would do that. And I wouldn't think a thing of it, and I agree with you. If that's the way that you want to be introduced, defined, talked about, absolutely, on an individual level, I'll say whatever you want. There's an older guy that serves on panels sometimes, and, he was diagnosed with manic depression. And he doesn't like to be introduced as, John Doe who lives with bipolar. He likes to be introduced as John Doe who lives with manic depression because that's how he was diagnosed when he was 20. And, he's 78 now, and this is very important to him. And I completely agree because that is how he defines himself. That's how he was diagnosed. That's how he moved through life with his illness. Even though that phrase is no longer used, we've renamed it to bipolar. That's still his lived experience, and that has value. That said, if he wrote me an email and said, I'm offended that you call it a bipolar, I would be like, hey, you don't get to define my outlook. He's never done that. He's a very, very nice gentleman. Right. And if he's listening, I love you, sir. If he's not, why not? Why aren't you listening? You're on my Facebook. You knew I was doing this.
Exactly. We're getting down in time. We only got about 10 minutes left, and we still have some questions here.
We'll do rapid fire. I'll answer them quickly.
Okay. Number one, how are you managing these days with your bipolar disorder?
I do well. I think that I have probably reached the maximum level of management, and that's to say that I still spend some amount of time every day managing bipolar disorder. There's never going to be a time where it's 100%. I have to take my pills in the morning. I take my pills at night. I have to, manage symptoms. I go to the doctor when everything's, well, twice a year. I also have to be aware if things are sliding down so that I can get to the doctor and, tell her that, I'm worried about symptoms, et cetera. So I think this is probably as good as it gets. And I'm very happy with that. I spend much more of my life living than I do worried about the illness. But I do spend some amount of time worried about the illness. And I think that's healthy. I think if I pretended that, hey, I'm 100% fine and I never need to think about bipolar disorder again, that's when it would, launch a sneak attack and get me. And I certainly don't want that.
Right.
Yeah. What do you do when you have bad days, or if you have bad days?
When I have bad days, it really depends on, what the bad day is, obviously. If I wake up and I'm just extraordinarily depressed, I really try to move through the day as typically as possible. It's not to say that I'm successful, and in fact, I'm almost never successful, but I try. I wake up and I'm like, oh man, I can feel it, but I still try to take that shower. I still try to get dressed. I still leave the house. I do as much of normal as I can. Normal for Gabe, not normal for society. And sometimes this launches a snowball effect where I'm like, man, I just don't want to leave. Well, I'm going to take the shower, and by noon it's like, oh, I'm completely over this because I was able to push through. But then sometimes I'm not successful with that. Sometimes despite my best efforts, I'll try the entire day to take the shower, and I'm not successful. And then we're into day two. And if day two is just as bad as day one, that's when I make the call. That's when I call, my psychiatrist. That's when I really start to, look at it from a broader perspective. luckily, because of my coping skills, I'm on a good medication routine, and I'm very experienced at this. That really hasn't happened in a long time. It's usually, it gets me for a couple of hours, not a whole day. The day starts off slow, or maybe it ends slow, but within a couple of days, I pull out of it, and I'm very fortunate for that, and I really do think that comes from having, the right routines, the right experience, the right coping skills, the right medication, the right support. That it really hasn't captured an entire day for a while, but it definitely gets a couple hours.
That's
here.
good.
Knock on wood. Knock on wood. I'm always prepared for the worst case scenario.
That's cool. That's really good.
What advice do you have for someone who's been diagnosed with bipolar disorder? What's your standard advice?
My standard advice is that it is a very difficult illness to treat, but it is treatable. I really firmly believe that everybody with bipolar disorder can live better than they are currently living, no matter where you are on the spectrum, because that's how life is. Life can always be better. It doesn't matter if you have an illness or not. You can improve your circumstances and your life by doing certain things. It's not going to be instant, though. From the time that I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder to the time that I reached recovery, and I define recovery as spending more time living my life than I do managing bipolar disorder, took 4 years. And that's a part of my story that just always seems to get missed. Everybody's like, oh, well, I have bipolar, and he has bipolar, and he's fine. But then they sort of don't pay attention to the 4 years that I spent getting fine. This is a slow process. 4 years is a little longer than the average, but it's not the longest that I've ever met. I know people that have taken 10 or 15 or 20 years, and I know people that have done it in 2. But I don't know anybody that's done it instantly. I don't know anybody that was diagnosed with bipolar disorder on Monday, and by Friday they were fine. It takes a long time.
Yeah.
You need to look at your successes by forward movement. If you started off here and 6 months later you are an inch further ahead, pat yourself on the back. You are doing it. Because remember, it's not about just moving forward an inch. It's also about the illness being unable to pull you back further. So everybody wants to say, oh, I only moved forward an inch, and that's not very much. 1, that is an extraordinary amount. I am proud of you. You should be proud of yourself. Congratulations. And 2, that whole time you were moving forward that inch, your illness was trying to drag you backwards. It was trying to drag you into the pits of despair and hell and suicidality and anxiousness and every other awful thing that comes with the illness. And it was not successful. And in fact, it failed so poorly, you moved forward an inch. Recognize that, realize that, learn from that, and get the next inch, and the next inch, and the next inch, and the next inch. But it's not going to be overnight. And so many people believe that if they're not well within a couple of weeks, that they are somehow a failure. You are not.
Yeah.
You are wildly successful.
Exactly.
Just the fact that you're taking... What?
Hey guys, I know you're
I think I lost you there. Sorry.
On the line. It's got the producer, guys. Just wanted to let you know you have a caller on the line that's demanding to know who Gabe's favorite person is. So I'll bring the caller on in. Caller, who are you and where are you calling from?
My name is Michelle. I'm calling from New York City.
Michelle Hammer, ladies and gentlemen, the schizophrenic to my bipolar, the other part of the podcasting duo, and the greatest person I have ever known for the next 2 minutes.
That's right.
That's right. She's like, that's right. Michelle, this is awesome. How are you?
I'm doing well. I edited the video that you had me make. I edited that and I sent it to you. I hope you like it.
You know I'm gonna like it, and I will resist the urge to nitpick everything. That is Michelle and I's partnership is basically based on this. Michelle is the most confident and laid back person I have ever met. I mean, she epitomizes New York cool. She is just awesome. She says it, she does it, she loves you, she hugs you, she moves on. And she's doing it like in sunglasses and a badass T-shirt the entire time. I obsess over every single detail. I'm like, I know this is red, but what if it was like 1% lighter? And Michelle just looks at me like I'm a crazy person. Yeah, I am not that. Yeah, that is what I do. So it's for real. You should see us work together. We should start a reality show just recording like our work sessions, because it's amazing. That is watchable. Forget about mental health or mental illness. Just Gabe and Michelle arguing over the shade of red would be, yeah. I don't know why we're not more famous.
I can't imagine why. We're live on the radio.
and if you're talking about red, you've got Beck's attention. So.
No, I just keep thinking about that scene from Liar Liar, where he's trying to convince himself that the pen is blue. Yeah.
The pen that I hold in my hand is royal blue.
Michelle, I am so glad that you called. That was really awesome. Michelle is also. Do we have time? Can I give Michelle a plug? Is that like allowed?
Yeah,
sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we love Michelle. She's the best.
Yeah,
she's been on the show.
Michelle's been on the show.
Yeah.
Oh, Michelle's been on. You had Michelle first before me?
No,
you were first.
We had you 2
Oh wait,
years
I've
ago.
been on twice, and Michelle's only been on once. Okay, then that's
like an Oreo
cookie,
like a cookie.
Michelle,
this is more like a Suicide Squad cameo.
Yeah, yes. So Michelle Hammer, aside from being my co-host on a bipolar schizophrenic and a podcast, we actually met because Michelle is the founder of schizophrenic.nyc. So you can go on your little computer, go to schizophrenic.nyc, and it's a clothing line where Michelle has made her signature product, I think, is the Don't Be Paranoid, You Look Great line. And it's on shirts and bags and stickers and stuff like that. But she's designed all kinds of other stuff. She does the Rorschach test, where she took the god-awful black and white Rorschach, and she added color and movement and design. And she does this because it forces everybody to look at this in a different way. And the Rorschach test was designed to make people with schizophrenia, or people with mental illness, look at an ink blot and describe what they see. And I know I'm kind of stealing her thunder here, but she did this to force the rest of society to consider, hey, because everybody's seen the black and white Rorschach, it's everywhere, and now they're looking at it blue, so they're looking at it in a different way. So in that moment, they're doing the same thing that people with mental illness have been asked to do, and they don't even know it. So it really is this like subtle consciousness awareness raising about what life for people like Michelle and people like Gabe and people like us is like, and she just tricks them. And that was just incredible.
Conversation starter.
Yes.
She likes them in different perspectives.
And this is the best part of Michelle. We all do this online. Like, I started online. I started on the internet. So I was safe in my house when people were mean. Michelle sets up a table in the most aggressive city in the country. Her little 5'4" frame being separated by nothing but like a banner and some shirts, and she's standing there talking to people about mental illness advocacy, about living with schizophrenia, like face to face. She is the bravest woman. No, scratch that. She is the bravest person I have ever met. Like I started online.
That's so nice of you to say.
It is awesome. Michelle has done this face-to-face in New York City. She is absolutely fearless. And, the smartest thing I ever did was work with Michelle. Hands down. And if my wife is listening, the smartest thing that I ever did was marry Kendall. But if she's not listening, the smartest thing that I ever did was work with Michelle.
It's a good thing you clarified that.
Why, thank you. I'm going to go out on my New York City journeys. It's been real. I love you guys.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks for calling,
Michelle.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Well,
that was awesome.
Looks like we have.
Yeah, it was awesome.
We have come to the end of
our journey
time today.
Yeah, it's a what a great note to end the show on, though. You know,
that was cool.
That was pretty cool. Yeah, that was really cool. Hey, Gabe, really quick before we say bye, just give everybody your social media so they can track you down and harass you, because they like to do that.
Absolutely. The best place to find me is GabeHoward.com, GabeHoward.com. You can buy the book. You'll see the links to all the podcasts, etc. On Facebook, I'm Gabe Howard 29. On Twitter, I'm Gabe Howard 29. On Instagram, I'm Gabe Howard 29. On YouTube, I'm Gabe Howard 29. And you can find all of the course on GabeHoward.com. Yeah, you're noticing a theme. I was 29 years old when I started all this stuff.
That makes sense.
It's a baby.
It's a wee baby.
I'm
you know
a wee
how old
baby.
I am?
Yeah, no. I was 29 when I set it all up. I'm not 29 now. I'm 42 now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're not that far behind us then.
Yeah, no, you're a little behind, but not too far.
Yeah, that? She said you have a little behind. Sorry.
I like you guys.
Sorry, couldn't help myself.
No, I don't blame you. Well, thank you both so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being here. We had a great time. I think done a service to our listeners today.
We had a blast, or as Scott would say, an Arctic blast. But we had a lot of fun. If there's anything down the pike you want to talk about, please reach out. We'd love to have you on again.
Yeah, if you've got you can compete with Rudy Caceres for the maximum number of times to be on the show.
Yeah, he's up to what, 5 or 6?
What's the max?
I think he's at 5.
Yeah, we think Rudy's at 5.
I got some catching up to do. Yeah. All right, I'll work on that. I'm at 2, so I need 3 more. All right,
just to tie him. Yep.
Yeah, I need 3
hang
more.
On the line.
And of course, in the time he'll try to get on. So I might get to 4, and then he'll get to 6. This is an arms race.
Yeah.
He's competitive. Don't let him fool you.
He is, for sure.
Hey, iron sharpens iron.
This is true. Well, stay on the line. We're going to end the show with Casey Lansdale, Living in the Moment. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Easy to get off track, easy to lose your way. In a world that makes you believe there's no time to waste, that you gotta have it all, better have it all, better not slow down. Looking ahead got me looking in circles. Life with a plan at first seems hopeful. Worry that I won't make it like I want if time keeps flying by. But you gotta have faith, don't let it slip away. Don't let the world drive you crazy. 'Cause I got a feeling if we keep believing, all that matters is right now. Forget about forever. Your path's already chosen. Start living in the moment. This old world keeps spinning, spinning every day. Just when you think it stops, there's an earthquake rushing you along, telling you to move along. You gotta give yourself a break. You gotta have faith, don't let it slip away. Don't let the world drive you crazy. 'Cause I got a feeling if we keep believing,
Don't miss the Mental Health Memoir of the Year, It's Not Your Journey. It's Not Your Journey is the true story of one woman's 20-year battle with mental illness and her recovery from a suicide attempt in 2013. Rebecca Lombardo candidly reveals her real and raw emotions in dealing with depression, bipolar disorder, the loss of her mother and brother, and more. Pick it up today on Amazon.com or visit www.RebeccaLombardo.com for more information.
Join us next week as Rebecca and Joe continue to battle the stigma of mental illness. Follow us on Twitter at Voices for Change RJ and on Facebook at Voices for Change 2.0.
Right now at Sprint, you can lease the Samsung Galaxy S9 for just $5 a month with a Sprint Flex lease. Galaxy S9 is an incredible phone. It takes super slow-mo video and instantly translates foreign language signs, menus, maps, and more. Lease your Galaxy S9 for just $5 a month today. Visit a Sprint store, sprint.com, or call 800-SPRINT-1. Phone $5 per month after $28 per month credit. Apply within 2 bills. If you cancel early, remaining balance due. Requires new line and 18-month lease. Excludes tax, subject to credit, $30 activation fee, and restrictions apply. Right now at Sprint, you can lease the Samsung Galaxy S9 for just $5 a month with a Sprint Flex lease. Galaxy S9 is an incredible phone. It takes super slow-mo video and instantly translates foreign language signs, menus, maps, and more. Lease your Galaxy S9 for just $5 a month today. Visit a Sprint store, sprint.com, or call 800-SPRINT-1. Phone $5 per month after $28 per month credit. Apply within 2 bills. If you cancel early, remaining balance due. Requires new line and 18-month lease. Excludes tax, subject to credit, $30 activation fee, and restrictions apply.